Joining me in the welcoming this morning, it would be unfair in this beautiful valley of Ceres, to not acknowledge the role played by our local municipality since these discussions started 11 years ago. And to reflect on this cooperation and working together, I am humbled and honored this morning to invite the Executive Mayor of Witzenberg Municipality, Mr. Trevor, to give some inputs. Can we please give him a hand?
Good morning, everybody. It's for the first time in my life that I can, with pride and honor, say distinguished guest. If you've listened to who's in attendance, you know, at this level, at a municipal level, and in a Cape Winelands level, this is a very, very special group of individuals that is gathered here this morning. So it's not necessary for me to go through the list. The program director has already do a stern job in making my job very easy to say a few words, and that will also give me an extra few minutes to reflect on the issues around land reform and agrarian reform. But I would like to acknowledge at least the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform in his absence. You know, I started my career in agriculture with Minister Derek Hanekom. And since then, to get to where John Steenhuisen is now in agriculture, and the split that happens in 2014 when they separated agriculture from rural development and land reform, it's a lot of people that I engage with, and it's over a period of nearly 35 years. So I'm proud to say that, you know, the mechanics of agriculture and especially agricultural reform is well known to me, because in this room are people that was part of that struggle. There was a struggle to do proper reform in agriculture. There's one thing about innovation and reform that everybody wants to escape, and that's the pain. That's the pain. And my humble opinion is that in agriculture, the pain of the slow pace of transformation was not felt and is not felt by everybody and all the role players in agriculture. So a few things that I've seen and learned in the field of land reform and agrarian reform, I would like to share with you. Firstly, and that is actually that I want the Minister to hear, is that we are not in a good space after 30 years in terms of land and agrarian reform. And it worries me that we are not there where all the South Africans who want to be, especially in agriculture, is where they want to be. Let's forget about what went wrong in the Department of Agriculture and in land reform and land and agrarian reform. So because that is not going to bring us anywhere. To play the card of mismanagement of funds, corruption with land reform is not going to assist us. But let's acknowledge we could have been far more advanced in our endeavors to share this country, was it not for what happened over the past 30 years in the space of land and agrarian reform. So let's admit. But that must be the reason and the big reason that we say as the agricultural sector and the agrarian sector in Witzenberg, and also the value chain in Witzenberg, let us say, with this initiative, enough is enough. It's time for real and genuine reform in agriculture in Witzenberg, because we have an institution here who's 11 years old, and all of us has given our blessings at the Kikodo Dam, standing on the dam wall and making videos and partake in a video that was spread to advance the aims and the objectives of PALS. But PALS also experienced the slow pace and the red tape around agricultural and agrarian reform. So that's the first thing I want to say to you. After 30 years of experience within the agricultural sector. The other thing that I want to say to you is that what I've experienced, we could not find the golden key in all the policies and all the strategies in land and agrarian reform to unlock the opportunities for those that has been denied access to land and those who lost their land through legislation that was not favorable to share this country. And that golden key was supposed to be the National Development Plan. And when I say to you that I was invited by the late Professor Muhammad Karan to partake in all the engagement around Chapter 6 of the National Development Plan, which deals with the rural economy and unlocking agricultural and agrarian opportunities in the rural areas. And up to now, there's one principle that all the participants did not agree on in our discussions in finalizing Chapter 6 of the National Development Plan. And that was the principle, let's ask white agriculture to share the land with the rest of the South Africans who wants to get access to land, especially for agricultural purposes. Remember, land is also needed for other purposes, but Chapter 6 specifically deals with land for agricultural and agrarian reform. And you know what was the one factor that we couldn't get consensus on in our discussions? And that was never taken up into Chapter 6 of the National Development Plan. And that was an offer to the government of that time. It was an offer that we want to put into Chapter 6 of the National Development Plan. And that was that organized agriculture, as we know it, white agriculture, make of all the unproductive agricultural land in their possession available to government and for reform at 50% of the price. That would have eliminated expropriation without compensation. But the agricultural sector, the big role players from all over the country, has decided that the idea that I've supported, that we share this land in the National Development Plan, Chapter 6, there was not consensus around that. The PALS initiative, coming back to the PALS initiative 11 years ago, I said to Gerrit, this is a very, very difficult space. You are starting this organization. Because I had, at that time, 18 years of experience of the slow pace of land reform in South Africa. Remember, I served on all the commodities. We had an organization with more than 3,000 black farmers as members. And we've seen the slow pace of land reform in South Africa. And my words to Gerrit was, You have to have hare op your tande forming this organization, because you are going to encounter all the negative of it and also the red tape. Never even imagine the corruption that is also present there. But I have to congratulate that you've persisted. The mere fact that you've persisted and you've made a difference in some pockets of our country, because PALS has grown into a national organization. So I would like to say to you, and that was my second message to the minister, and if he's somewhere, maybe you, Lennox, shared with the minister, it's time that the minister look into implementing institutions and support them by giving them the projects to implement. It's working well in the Western Cape with Casidra, but I think PALS has earned the reputation to be honored to be in fully implementation agent of the Minister of Land and Agrarian Reform. So if the minister can consider that and look into that and trust PALS to bring about meaningful reform in the agricultural sector, I think that will be a well-deserved feather in their cap and acknowledgement of what they are doing. There's one thing about the land reform of the past that I also want to share with you, and especially for PALS, because I think they are struggling with it. Because there's a deviation of the original plan and objectives that we've agreed to that they couldn't implement. And that is the issue of first-generation farmers in South Africa and in Witzenberg. You know, if there's not a different approach to first-generation farmers, then we will still be on very shaky ground with land reform. Let me give you an example. I'm a first generation, Ahmad is a first generation, Theo is a first generation, Yafi is a first generation. In difficult times, there's a different scenario that plays when you are a fourth or a fifth generation, when it's COVID and the product can go out. When there's problems in our harbors and the containers can't leave the harbor. When there's a recession in Europe, as we have experienced, it has a different effect on a first-time farmer, a first-generation farmer, and a farmer that's in a situation where you're the fourth, fifth, or sixth generation. And Lennox, if you can't address that, if the policy change can't come, that we look differently. When it's a first-generation farmer, the failures will be very, very quick. The successes will not last for generations. And that is my experience with first-generation farmers. There's a red tape, you know, and so many problems to make financial institutions and government understand, treat them differently. So if we can get that right, because the cycle, when you develop a business, as the cycle has its highs and its lows. There's no support or limited support when there is a problem, whether it's a national problem, an international, a global problem. Nobody thinks about the first generation farmers in Witzenberg that's going through difficult times. In conclusion, I want to wish everybody in the room today that plays a role and strengthen the arms of PALS and the board of directors of PALS all the best. Never give up. This is a proven success story, but we need to support them, especially in changing policies to make it easier for them to access funding to support farmers that falls in the category of transformation. And I wish you a very, very successful AGM. Thank you.
Can we another hand to our Executive Mayor. Honorable Mayor, thank you very much for the input. Again, we would like to acknowledge the central and pivotal role played by Witzenberg Municipality as an enabler, local level enabler to carry us as to where we end. And we believe that Witzenberg Municipality paved the way for what could be an example of local government playing an enabling role for initiatives, area-based initiatives such as PALS. So once again, thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, for your input this morning.